There is absolutely no need to join a coaching class to prepare for civil services. It's one of the biggest misconceptions that many of these aspirants have, that if you have a coaching institute, if you're paying so much of money, you will get a lot of quality content. There's no need. In the world that we live in today, there's a lot of free resources available. If you can leverage these resources very diligently, you can clear this exam. These resources are magical, and it's a travesty that many of the youngsters have no idea about these resources. So you don't need any coaching institute as long as you have the willingness and desire to work hard. There are many students who don't have the finances, who don't have the resources, who don't have the patience or courage to take risks to that extent. And you can still clear the exam without joining any coaching institute. One thing is that with coaching classes, you think that you are being guided, but in many cases, you could be misguided.
Hi Naman, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Shatakshi. How are you?
I am doing really well. I am here to understand and ask you something much more interesting and much more concerning, which is that in the world of UPSC, from what I understand, everyone joins a coaching class. It's almost like IIT JEE in my head, right? Do you think there is an alternative and cheaper route than taking a coaching class which is worth lakhs for lakhs of students in India?
Okay, this is a really good question. To be brutally honest, and allow me to be very categorical here, I'll be very clear and categorical. Forget about alternative. There is absolutely no need to join a coaching class to prepare for civil services. It's one of the biggest misconceptions that many of these aspirants have, that if you have a coaching institute, if you're paying so much of money, you will get a lot of quality content. There's no need. In the world that we live in today, there's a lot of free resources available. If you can leverage these resources very diligently, you can clear this exam. These resources are magical, and it's a travesty that many of the youngsters have no idea about these resources. So you don't need any coaching institute as long as you have the willingness and desire to work hard. There are many students who don't have the finances, who don't have the resources, who don't have the patience or courage to take risks to that extent. And you can still clear the exam without joining any coaching institute.
Correct. That's a very beautiful answer, an answer that I also kind of resonate with. A lot of, in fact, entrepreneurs themselves who are running coaching centers, and that's really good that they have also maintained it, that be it UPSC and especially be it IIT JEE, if you know what kind of information you want, if you're dedicated enough as well, you can crack these toughest examinations in the world without coaching institute. So Naman, if you are saying there are resources like that, could you share and give examples of what those resources could be so that it's helpful for your audience?
Absolutely. So I would categorize these resources at three levels. You need to become expert in these three segments if you were to clear civil services or any exam in the world. The first would be a scientific method. Second would be a traditional method. And third would be a mental method. Okay. See, I'll begin with mental because whatever battles that you will fight in life, these are mental battles. We don't live in the age of the khiljis and the sultans. Mental battles play a very important role. It is a Herculean task for an aspirant to stay motivated, to stay diligent, to stay consistent for a span of 1 year. So to be mentally strong, it is very important that you have a strong support system, a good community around yourself. Could be in the form of family, could be in the form of various other aspirants, could be in the form of your elder brother, younger sibling. So do have hobbies. Do not just cloister yourself in your rooms. Take care of your mental well-being. It is extremely critical. There will be instances when you will feel stressed, anxious, desperate, depressed. But if you can tackle those toughest moments and can fight those mental battles, you are going to be billion times better than many of your counterparts. And for this, you don't need a coaching institute. You need a good support system, a good community, freely available, as long as you're willing to look around yourself. No coaching up until now. Second thing that I want to focus here on is the scientific methodology. So if you're studying any subject, could be polity, could be history, could be economics, all will go through standard resources. Then it boils down to how you analyze those resources. How do you debate those resources? How do you connect those resources, the world of history with the world of business, the world of business with the world of economics, the world of economics with the world of philosophy? If you have a good interlinking power, if you can link those subjects with current affairs, you will start loving the subject. For this, perhaps you will need a coaching institute, but I'll show you a hack. I'll give you a hack. At Misfits, for 24 hours, you don't have to pay a single money. We'll put the resources in the comments. So go through the recordings, freely available within 24 hours, 100% refund policy. Go through the recordings. Try to see how other fellow misfits they engage, they debate, they analyze even the plainest of disciplines such as history, and then you will realize a scientific methodology to study these subjects. Critical aspects. Not many people know this. This is a very underutilized resource, freely available. So I hope you make the best use of it.
Just to clarify, you mean misfits.bet, right?
Yes, misfits.bet. We'll also put in the link. And the third thing is the standard approach. So in traditional, you just have to go through certain standard books. Number one, watch through certain standard episodes on YouTube. YouTube is also a very critical resource. And watch through a few hacks that I'm going to showcase and tell you because I've taken notes for all of you so that I don't fumble here. Economic Survey of India, one of the most standard resources, freely available. Beautiful document. Vox videos, freely available for international affairs. Michael Sandel's video series on ethics, beautiful series. When I took his class in Claremont Hall at Harvard, when he was taking a lecture on tech ethics, he has not uploaded it as of now, but I'm sure he will do it. But his the recordings that he has done for past, I think, for undergraduate course, freely available. Beautiful interconnections he makes with philosophy and ethics. For Polity, Samvidhan TV show, freely available. Censored TV debates, freely available. Allows you to analyze contemporary issues with beautiful finesse. C. Rajamohan articles on Indian Express. Sanjeev Ahluwalia's blog on contemporary issues of India. Beautifully mixes the world of traditional knowledge, constitution with economics. McKinsey Insights for mains to bring in the business perspectives. Pradhan Mantri TV show for India after independence. And once you've learned all these tips, tricks and hacks, then go through standard books. And it depends upon how you use those books. Even those books are some way freely available if you know the ways and means to download those books. But I don't encourage it. So that authors who put in a lot of effort, they also get paid for their hard work. And if you were to buy those books, 7, 8 in total, it will not cost you more than 2,000-3,000 rupees.
Wow.
With these resources, I can bet you will stand a phenomenal chance of not just clearing this exam, but you will have a really good shot of performing better than your counterparts.
Very beautiful articulation. I mean, in one of the podcasts, for example, Ashneer Grover was talking about that there are leading entrepreneurs in this country who are drop out of college, right? And he says that you need to figure out what's the method that suits you. For example, and it's almost like the coaching culture answer. You know whether the coaching institute is going to make you join civil services. And you also know that you don't thrive in a coaching class or in a synchronous mode, so you do not need to. However, we cannot answer this question for someone else. It's something that the student will have to define for himself or herself. So, for example, you have very candidly many a times maintained that you are a great self-learner, right? But not many people are. In fact, I would say larger proportion of the people are not great self-learners. On point number 2 of Misfits, I just wanted to very candidly also give a caveat. From free point of view, it's practically free. It's not ideally free, right? So you go, you make a payment, and like Amazon, you can take a full refund within 24 hours, right? So it's practically end to end. You do not pay anything, but you get to learn the methodologies. I have, and of course, I have watched few of the shows that you said, and though I have never been a civil servant
Even
aspirant,
Misfits is a show now because we call it episodes. Episode 1, 2, 3, 4 and all the recordings.
I'm sure I will look forward to watching them at some point of time just to widen my thought horizons. But I can completely vouch few of these shows are brilliant piece of sources to just to get to know about the history of India and the history of the world as well. You talked about standard books. I'm not sure if it's a good question or not, but a lot of people are curious. Okay, I want to study myself. What are certain books that I need to have on my shelf, especially because you said these are just 7 to 6 in number.
See, one problem that many UPSC aspirants have is that they, for one subject, they will look at 10 books. Let's not do that. Pick one book and revise it 10 times instead of looking at 10 different sources. Because eventually you have to clear the exam, and these books are gold standard books. I spoke of one being Economic Survey of India. It's a travesty that not many read it. It's such a beautiful piece of art, Economic Survey of India, written by such fabulous people. A friend of mine, in fact, was involved in writing it this time. So, in terms of standard books, various subjects are there. So, for example, for Polity, Laxmikanth is a phenomenal book. For a few chapters, go through D.D. Basu. But Laxmikanth, in general, is a great book. We'll put in the details. if in case I forget to name a few of the books.
Sure.
So go through the comments and the description of the video in its entirety. Second would be history. So for history, divided into various segments. Ancient, medieval, Tamil Nadu book is a good book. Some can also go through the R.S. Sharma book and Satish Chandra book for ancient medieval. For modern, Spectrum and India's Struggle for Independence are really two phenomenal books. Pick any one, stick with it. India's story after independence, go through Ramchandra Guha's book. It's a little detailed book, but I loved it and will urge many of you to go through it. There will be certain biases, but let go of those biases if and when you're going through the readings of the book. Bipan Chandra's book also is pretty good for what he's written after the story of India when it gains independence. Similarly, there are books on geography in NCERT, gold standard, class 11th, class 12th. If you want to further look into physical aspects of geography, G.C. Leong, again, a phenomenal book. I can go on with the list. It's very popular amongst all the UPSC aspirants. So the best way would be to put it in the comment section and we'll do that.
Sure. Rajiv very famously said that rather than reading 100 books, it makes sense to internalize a topic in your life. And it seems like for an examination as well, read few, that's what you're advising, but really internalize them very well.
Absolutely.
So, Naman, just from credibility point of view, do you know of examples of civil servants who did not take any coaching class and did few books and they were just sorted, so that everyone gets the confidence that I am from rural part of India, I am unemployed, my parents do not have the means to pay lakhs, and yet I could actually crack this covetous exam. So could you share a few examples?
See, one thing is that with coaching classes, you think that you are being guided, but in many cases you could be misguided. And that misguidance is very terrifying, because here at this stage you are putting in your emotions, your money, and most importantly your time. So in terms of the examples, one could be me, that I did not take any coaching classes, cleared my prelims, cleared my mains, scored a pretty good score in my interviews, 204. And there are quite a few of my friends who did not take coaching classes. Some of them went to some renowned institutes, but they do not credit their success to those institutes. All they realized in the journey was that they wasted a lot of time whenever that was happening.
There seems to be someone on the other side, so perhaps we'll look at it after the podcast. That's it from my side, Naman. I frankly have way more curiosities about the entire civil services preparation, such as I had a friend from BCG who actually went on a sabbatical, prepared for civil services, he got a rank. And there are many more questions like that, whether you should be taking career break or not, but not on this podcast. This podcast was all about best cheap alternatives, so we could make a sequence to it at some point of time. Happy to hear if you have any last words for your audience, in fact.
Absolutely. This podcast was about free alternatives. No money, no issues. Leverage these resources, but most importantly, be very efficient in whatever you're doing. Be very scientific in your preparation methodology. There are instances of people who will waste their time, put in 16 hours of efforts, but you will hear this story that they're not clearing the exam. They're not learning new things. They're not able to analyze things. So be consistent, but do focus on efficiency. Simple equation is output divided by input. Maximize your outputs, minimize your inputs in every aspect. If you can do that, if you can be more scientific, if you can leverage those PCG 2x2 matrix that your friend would have leveraged in whatever you do in terms of impact and scale of it, you're all set to not just rule the world, rule the hearts, and definitely make a lot of difference in going forward to the beautiful country that we have, India. All the best.
I would also like to just add upon what Naman said. Focus on your mental well-being. It's going to be a long journey. Celebrate the festivals with your family. Be close to them. They are the people who are going to stand by you through thick and thin.
Absolutely. One last thing. I think UPSC is a means for an end. It's not an end in itself. But if for some reason you are stressed, anxious, don't be. Think of it as a means to create a large-scale difference. There could be other means as well. So have that perspective in mind when you're writing your prelims or mains or appearing for interviews, because that will keep you sane, grounded, and less anxious. With less anxiety, with less desperation, you are going to really outperform yourself.
And go places. I completely agree. Thank you so much, Naman, for that word of advice as we wrap up. And yes, good luck to all the aspirants.